Hi there, hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Well, there's no doubt that it's definitely a very difficult time around the globe at the moment. And even though your child may be feeling sort of calm on the surface, it may be possible that they may in fact be internalizing their feelings. This, of course, is something that we can't see, but however may just rise to the surface when we least expect it. If we think about it logically at the moment, homeschooling and educating kids during this time when their anxiety levels are possibly higher than normal may in fact be a little bit more challenging for parents. And that being the case, it may be a really good idea just to talk openly with your kids about how they're feeling, and also that it's normal to be feeling unsure when things are changing in our world, and changing they are, not on a weekly or a daily basis, but in some situations almost by the hour. So there's no doubt that parenting and teaching our kids under these current stressful circumstances is really quite difficult. Now, lucky for us today, we are joined by our very special guest, Susan Spelic, who's going to help provide us with expert tips and advice how we can best teach our kids at home. Now, Susan is a reading advocate, author, and founder of the Reading Mountain, and she wears many hats as a mother, educator, author, reading advocate, specialist, professional speaker, and creative. And she knows all too well that life can actually get really crazy at times, and she's all too familiar with the balancing act and aware of the pressures faced by parents and family. Now, Susan really sees a palpable anxiety in some parents who worry about whether their kids are getting the best start in life. And I think a lot of parents would be feeling that at the moment with homeschooling. But Susan, we're really grateful for your time. So thank you for joining us. How are you?
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's really wonderful to be catching up with you. Now, amongst many things, it's been said that you think that the most important thing at the moment for parents is addressing the mental health of our kids. Can you just really quickly talk us through this and what your thoughts are about it?
So the kids are aware that something really bad is happening in the world. As much as we can try and sugarcoat it, it's really quite a serious situation. They're hearing it on the news, they're feeling it from us, they're hearing it from their friends. So, trying to validate their feelings by, encouraging talk about them, about the feelings, but also to try and say that what they're feeling is normal, and they're around people that care for them. We will look after you, that sort of language. We can do X, Y, and Z, tell them the things that they can do to help the situation, and try and turn it into a positive thing for them. So it's something that they can do to feel in control, because they know that we're anxious as well. So we need to also try and protect them from our own feelings of anxiety. So it's hard for parents at the moment.
Yeah, and in speaking to their kids as well, I'd love to get your advice when parents are asking children to express their feelings. Why do you think it's so important for parents to validate those feelings?
So that they feel safe, Rachel. So if a child is saying, I'm feeling really scared that Poppy's going to pass away, or which is what I have heard from a child, is to say it's normal to feel the way you're feeling. It's normal to feel scared, but don't worry, we're looking after Poppy. Try and use the best language of support that they can. Use the word love. We're doing everything we can. It's really important that we just calm down around our kids, even though we might feel inside a bit of a furnace building.
Yeah. Well, we've got lots to talk about today. Now, we published your article titled "Difficult Times: How can we best teach our kids at home?" For someone who hasn't read the article, can you give us a little bit of an overview of what it's about and what inspired you to write it?
So I was inspired to write it because I know a lot of parents are not only faced with having to have their kids at home full-time, 24/7, for an unknown amount of time, but also they also have to work at home in their own jobs if they still have their jobs. So it's another layer of difficulty. Plus that they need to try and homeschool their kids with online models or with book packs or whatever's being sent home. So it's really it's a multifaceted sort of area of greyness that parents are feeling at the moment, and that's why I wrote it. So I basically wrote down some ideas that I know work, and I hope that they serve the community well.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have a link in the introduction paragraph to the article where you share all your wonderful ideas. There's just one thing I wanted to chat to you about. The last paragraph in the article,
Yep.
and the last point that you make is about parents who also need to practice self-care. For someone who possibly hasn't thought about this before, can you tell us why you think that's so important?
So we can't look after our families unless we look after ourselves, and we're no good to anybody unless we look after ourselves. And we often put other people first, especially our kids. So you know, trying to be aware of when we're feeling really ordinary, and trying to perhaps practice mindfulness. I know that's a buzzword at the moment. It's being used a lot, but it's really important that we are aware of our breathing, that we try and calm down using things that we know help. For example, if you've got a wheat bag on your shoulders at night, you know, something that's been heated up in the microwave, something nice and heavy on your shoulders can make a world of difference to how you feel. It's a physical thing. I can't explain it, but it helps me. Feeling a cup of tea going down your throat after you've had a nice gulp of a fresh cup of tea, feeling that whole thing, that mindfulness of just being in that moment, and forgetting about everything else for just a few seconds, and it can help. Not to mention meditation, so which I've also included links
To as well. Yeah, and look, I think there's something that maybe parents haven't thought enough about at the moment. They're so pretty concerned with looking after the kids and making sure they're being homeschooled, and or, you know, that they've got enough activities and everything else happening, that they are worried about the family unit and not themselves. But no one can pour from an empty cup, as we know. So the most important thing is that they actually figure out what it is that helps them sort of charge up their batteries. And if it's running a bath after the kids have gone to bed or what have you, to be able to do that. And as you said, the importance of practicing self-care, because I think at the moment this is not a sprint, it's a bit of a marathon that we're in, and we just don't know how long it's going to be. We're going to be in this situation for. So I think it's a really valid point, and thank you for reminding us that self-care is really important for everyone at the moment. You know, lots of other. Here you go.
I was just thinking, and some kids might, you know, some parents might think, oh, yeah, right, having a bath. You know, negotiate that with the child and say, you know, this is my time. I'm going to have, you know, a bath between 8 o'clock and 8:30. That's the time where I don't want anyone knocking on the door. It's my time. You've had your time, and you explain it. So it's fair. Make it about fairness, because you're important too as a parent.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really valid point, and something that we need to be exercising, you know, as much as possible at the moment, is just that balance of time. Everyone's got their own time and space at the moment, which is really important. Okay, so let's get stuck into question number 1. How important is maintaining a child's routine when having to homeschool?
Keeping things as normal as possible, normal, you know, in the best way we can make them normal. Making sure their body clocks are awake and asleep at the same time as they normally would at school helps them physically and mentally and emotionally, and it also makes them feel safe. If they know that there's a routine that they can predict, kids feel safe, and it will help them be ready to learn rather than feel anxious. Holidays, it's important that they have a break at the same time. Big fan of having a rest, but making sure that you're still doing quality fun things together, not just and limiting devices, but also trying to enjoy this beautiful autumn weather at the same time. I think, you know, it could get a little bit gloomy in winter for us, if, you know, down the track. So try and maximise the time. Have a picnic outside on a rug if you've got a patch of grass outside, that sort of thing. Getting some vitamin D, pretty important.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that school time is school time and having that structure, but holiday time and weekends is actually having a distinct difference between the two, as we do when in normal life, that, you know, but keeping the time frames and their bedtime and sleeping patterns exactly the same. When school times, to be able to even have our days structured, that they still have a, you know, like even a recess and a lunch break and all those types of things as well. But playtime and holidays is exactly that. So knowing the difference between the two is, at the moment, every day is sort of merging into one a little bit, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So the kids will normally walk into their classroom, and they'll often see on the board the timetable, what's happened during the day. great idea to keep that happening at home, on the fridge, on the whiteboard, or writing down, between, in the morning. You can just have morning, afternoon even. It's something as simple as that. We can do stories or experiments or whatever it is we're doing, and then in the afternoon we're doing maths and measurement or something like that. Even using those terms, kids think they really like predictability, and they feel safe.
And another thing that I've been speaking to a lot of sort of partners and experts at the moment, which they're saying as well, is to have a designated space in the home, that this is the education zone, or this is your school zone, or what have you. So this is where you're going to be doing or it's not homework, it's your lessons, and when you move out of this space. So this is another really important thing as well. Clothing is an interesting thing too, as much as possible, not to necessarily put them into their uniform, but it's a mindset. So maybe changing clothes after that they've, finished their school day as well. What are your thoughts on that?
It's part of a routine. It's part of how they feel. It's a physical thing, and it's an expectation that during this time, this is when we're learning, or formally learning.
Yeah. Let's get stuck into the next question. What is vocabulary, and why do we need to teach it to our kids?
So kids need to know special words that helps them to understand and communicate, and to understand the world and to comprehend. So that the vocabulary it's the number of words, or the words that kids learn to communicate and to understand their world. So there are so many words out there, and lots of words mean the same thing, and it's up to us to teach that vocabulary explicitly.
Yep. And the next one too is, what is STEM and numeracy vocabulary, and how can we put this into our day at home as well?
Okay, so STEM being science, technology, engineering and maths. So STEM being the idea that it's all integrated into, those subjects can be taught concurrently or separately, but it's all sort of, it can be included in one whole activity, or across a day or across a week. But to be specifically taught with specific language is really important, because if you're going to speak about certain things or new words, kids need to put it in a context.
Yes.
To understand.
So, if we were to paraphrase, I guess, all your key messages for families who are homeschooling at the moment, how would you sort of summarise everything that you basically want to communicate out to them?
So I'd like to think about, you don't have to reinvent the wheel at home. So if you're cooking, you can do engineering from cooking, you can do science from cooking, you can do maths from cooking, you can do literacy from cooking. One activity can lend itself to lots of different vocabulary exercise or modelling a different language. So if you're talking about, for example, time, if you're talking about a millennium or a million or 1,000, you're talking about those numbers. If you think about 1,000, you can think, well, that's a millennium. Then you've got your century, then you've got your decade, then you've got your year, then you've got your months, then you're going back down to that smallest unit. Even using those as part of your conversation, super important. So you can talk about fractions when you're cooking. You can talk about fractions. We're talking about in a quarter of an hour, we're going at 7:15, we're going to turn on the video or whatever it is, or the DVD. So there's lots of language, and we could talk about percentages. So even just throw it in, even without them really understanding, or it's about exposure and repeated exposure in a proper learning environment. Yep. That helps them to understand and comprehend what the language means, what the vocabulary means.
Yes. So, and at the moment, you're a teaching aide currently at the moment as well. Was that?
I'm a teacher coach for a literacy in literacy instruction. So I'm working with teachers on how to teach spelling and reading this term, and it will be online still. So it's a massive new area for us. So I'm still coaching and helping with the planning of all the online lessons that are happening at the school I'm working at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And is there any other online links that you would recommend that parents should be using at this time whilst they're homeschooling, aside from what they've actually got in their distant learning packs?
Yep. So there's a website called 5 from 5, and it's a brilliant teacher and parent resource for the specific instruction of reading and of literacy instruction. So It's evidence-based. That's the big one. It's based on evidence and on how to teach reading, how to teach writing, how to spell, and why. And there's a parent tab with lots of ideas about what to do at home. In my article, there are links to different activities that I've included. There are Nessie.com, really fantastic YouTube, but making sure it's being supervised properly. There are certain things that there's lots of spelling. You can study idioms, for example, sayings and fun language, and it can go in lots of different directions. And if you're in doubt, I think if parents are in doubt, they need to still be able to contact their teachers online through email, because they're still working. They're working at home. They're still teaching. And they're still on call if they're not on holidays during term, during school. So it's still the same. So you're not on your own if you're a parent.
Well, let's include the link for the 5 to 5 in the bottom of the introduction paragraph. And aside from this, if parents have got any other questions or want to contact you with some reading tips for their kids, how can they find you?
So my direct email is susan@thereadingmountain.org. I'm happy to help, happy to lend an ear even if you're not sure about something, and I'm happy to. So parents can contact me directly through my website, which is thereadingmountain.org, or directly through to my email, which is susan@thereadingmountain.org, and I'm happy to be an anchor and a help to any parent who's got questions about teaching literacy at home and how to support their kids and to support their families.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susan. We can't wait to chat with you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, Rachel.
Bye.
Bye.